People are dumb.
Okay, we are live on YouTube,
Hey,
and
right. Welcome to this episode of crazy. So we need to talk through some things because I barely work out. Uh, you see what's happening. Losing
oh my
this,
God,
how it's called, losing this thing that losing this magic of speaking for live audience. Anyway, hello and welcome to this episode of Crazy Russians in DevOps, podcast about DevOps technology and culture with heavy Russian accent. And today we're trying our first live show. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how many people would be interested in this type of content. And today I have my friend and co-host Baruch Sadagursky.
well, hello. A couple of notes here. First of all, this is the first ever crossover episode in which we not only do an episode of Crazy Russian in DevOps, we also do an episode in DevRelRadio. And that's because we are lazy to record two different episodes. So we are going to record one and post for both of them. How about that?
That's a very good idea. It's not about laziness, it's about covering more different audiences. And also I think we can say this is internal joke. What we can say that let's when Victor and Baruch start new podcast or going to the new podcast or doing some existing podcast, and how long it will take for them to not talk about conferences. So essentially today we're going to be talking about some conferences, but not what you expect, but we'll be talking about conferences on a slightly different angle. What do you think? What do you think, Bark?
Yeah, so that's the idea of this crossover. It will be useful both for developer relation practitioners and for um, people in DevOps that want to share their knowledge. So yeah, I think that will be a nice crossover.
So
So what are we going to talk about?
yeah, it's a good point that I summoned all the speakers and hosts of this podcast to talk about a couple of things. So I would say one of the tweets that I recently read in internet, and in general some of the things, some changed this year. I i got honor and pleasure to be in a program committee from like one small niche conference that my company Confluent helps to organize. It's community conference called Kafka Summit, and we already have a program finalized for Kafka Summit London, and we opened a call for papers for Kafka Summit Austin. So Europe, this year we're going to be hosting events in London, and for North America we're going to be hosting this in Austin, not in New York, not in San Francisco, but somewhere in between. Hey, Austin. So, and the the thing what I wanted to discuss with you, Bark, today, since you've been in a kind of both sides of these barricades, about how to submit uh, your proposal for your talk that won't suck, and as a conference organizer and a program committee member, or maybe even chair in some other conferences, how to deal um, with this call for papers, and what kind of advices we can give to people um, to to work on their proposals and what they want to speak about. So we will provide some of the tips. And again, this is totally improvised, as well as we always do. We're not preparing, but hey, we're professionals, right?
So the good news about not being over prepared is that this episode is actually happening.
Oh yes, exactly. Because it's too much anxiety when you start thinking about this and you want to feed a lot of things. But we'll see how this, again, if this episode will be well received, and we will get positive feedback in terms of things that we will talk about would be interested for people, we might be do another one like a follow-up, but let's see how it goes. So first of all,
Yeah. So first of all, yes, done is better than perfect. So we're doing it, and couple
hashtag
of credentials.
hashtag DevOps, hashtag DevOps.
Yeah. Couple of credentials on my side. So obviously we have JFrog User Conference, Swamp Up. The CFP just closed a week ago, so we are now in the process of selecting talks. That was one of the triggers for this episode. Some things that we saw in our CFP that made our hair go gun. Uh, Among other things. Also, another very powerful experience in terms of being on a program committee is KubeCon Amsterdam that comes upon us in the end of March, and I was. Blessed and honored to be on the program committee, on the general program committee for the CI/CD track, and then was honored to be selected a track host, which means that we did me and Lara Taco did the next step of selection, selecting from looking at at what general program committee picked and making almost final decisions. After that, they were reviewed by the chairs, but another step in the decision making in KubeCon, and that's obviously a very powerful experience in terms of being on this side. Also, obviously, that will be a great place to mention DevOps, the conference with the name with the best name ever, and pun is obviously intended,
Big.
and that's. Yeah, and that's Moscow in the end of April. The CFP is actually still open, but the way it works in the conferences that Jagger Group organizes is that it's a continuous acceptance progress. So we keep looking at the new submissions that come in as they come in instead of waiting for the CFP to close and then sorting them out. So I was,
let me let me stop you
yeah.
right here. This is actually very interesting point. So let's kind of spend like a few minutes to talk to this about. So summer conferences, they follow the formal processes. Let's call it like a waterfall, right? When the waterfall process, everything will be stages. There would be some deadlines, and you will waiting for speakers to submit. You will have a formal deadline, and only after that program committee just like a scout, and they do kind of the scrum, and they going through all proposals, like all 500 600 overnight. And after that, maybe couple weeks of discussion in terms of like what kind of proposals went in. And after that, the program committee is done, right? So, and after that, the program organizers will just like put this on the schedule. And on another hand, we have this like continuous process, right? More fluid, more agile, where first of all, why people doing this, Baruch? How we think? Like why?
So
Let's talk about this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that one is waterfall and the other is agile. It's just the different style of doing things, and both are acceptable. Both have pros and cons. And for one of the requirements for this continuous progress is that the program committee has a very good communication process set up, because you need to constantly debate incoming proposals, and that requires people knowing each other, being in contact with each other, and meet rather frequently, like once a week, to review all the new proposals in the pipe. And sometimes this is not possible. Obviously, the benefits is that you have your program highlights sooner, so the attendees know what to expect and don't have to wait until all the agenda is published at once, which is nice and help to market the conference. From the other side, it has downsides of not seeing the whole options before making the picks. And this is obviously where more traditional style of review, when all the submissions are done, the CFP closed, and now we can review, actually comes. I think is giving you
So
a
the
better picture of what's going
attention
on,
of what to expect, and don't have to wait until
another benefit of reviewing everything in one batch is that you can compare the selections properly. So, for example, one of the systems that I advocate for doing CFP, sessionize.com, they have a very nice evaluation system in place in which you see three talks three yeah, three
Mhm.
talks on one screen, and then you select your first pick, your second pick, and your third pick, and keep comparing talks with each other until you have your ranks, even if you are not very consistent.
Kind of
So
like swap,
sometimes
swap sort, or what's called, like you go in through different talks and just throw in away
there
each,
I
like,
bet I bet there is mathematical term for this kind of comparison. I have
hey,
no doubt.
we're not in Google, so we don't know algorithms.
We are barely engineers, so we can allow ourselves just to say this is how it works. People understand. We might not look as smart as people who know the term, but who cares? So
Yeah, you
anyway,
can always write us a comment in Twitter, and point us to to right places, as people in internet usually do.
yeah. So anyway, there are pros and cons of bunch of them. I wouldn't say that one of them is preferred. Different conferences can do different stuff. So, for example, for KubeCon, doing the continuous thing cannot work because the program committee is very large and people don't really know each other. Bringing them all together to discuss different proposals is almost impossible. So we wait until the CFP is done, and then everybody vote, and then it moves to the next level of voting of the track host, and then to the last approval of the chairs. And this is fine. So I kind of disagree with you that one is waterfall, which in our industry obviously is a synonym of a bad process, and the other of agile, which in our industry is a synonym of a good process. Instead, it's just depending on the style and on the goals of the conference. If you need some highlights soon enough, you will have to pick them sooner. If that's not something that your sales are dependent on, as for KubeCon, for example, then you don't have this pressure.
The Speaking about like sales and stuff, so for many of people, it's somehow can be surprised, but yeah, the conference is a business, it's an enterprise, and it's a whole, like a project planning, project management held by itself. So the call for paper is just one of the steps in this in this held. There's multiple things that we're not going to be touching today, but yeah, this is very important to point out. Yeah, so that multiple things, multiple drivers that maybe you've seen during the life when you're submitting your proposal, or if you're in program committee, there's certain things, certain deadlines, usually have attached like a monetary value. So okay, so we have two processes. This is all very nice, this is all very good, and yeah, maybe I use different sets of words. Again, this is a Crazy Russians in DevOps podcast with Russian accent. English is a second language, so hey, we have our disclaimer. Now, the let's talk about first thing. So before we become those like mystical, magical program committee wizards, we started by submitting proposals. So we're not going to be talking about the motivational side of things, why you want to submit this, blah blah blah. Maybe it's a part of your job, maybe it's a part of the thing that you want to do apart from the job. You need to submit one of your talks to conference. So let's start first thing, like how you would research, right? So how you would start, how you would find that the conference is accepting things, how you would do this research, Baruch. So how you would know, is there any resources that help you to keep track of things in terms of what kind of conferences are running around the world, what kind of topics they're accepting, and what's your process here?
Yeah, so just to bring some perspective on where we stand in terms of important program committee members and humble submitters to conference. I think actually being on the side of people who submit and try to get accepted is much better description of both of us than sitting on the Olympus and sorting through the proposals. We have some kind of internal view for a couple of the conferences that we are involved, but we are much more on the side of people who submit, and fingers crossed, and hope that we did a good job in advocating for our talk than the other way around. So as I mentioned in the description of this episode on video, we are in the same boat with the audience. We really are not sure how the good submission looks like, and the whole idea of this episode is to try and figure it out together with you. Now, regarding for tracking where we can find amazing conferences, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because obviously conferences are all around. Some of them have used standard tools for CFP. The others have their own. Some of them is a franchise that have a lot of conferences that you can look at one place. The others are the other way around. We used to have a very nice resource that was called Lanyard. Let it rest in peace. That was a wiki style community gathered a list of conferences that was very nice and very and had a lot of conferences in it, but then Eventbrite acquired them and basically lost any interest in maintaining. It was in kind of a passive mode for a while, but now I don't even know if it's up anymore.
Yeah, so
Uh,
that was very, you brought some of the interesting memories from 5 6 years ago. So there is couple resources that like I'm monitoring. There's a we'll put the links to show notes. So there is a mailing list with like open CFPs. I forget, like CFPs weekly or something like that. There are a few of those. I will share mm, some of the events that some of the like the links that I personally use. Another thing, since I don't know how about you, Baruch, but also in my company, in my organization, the the work with community, work with conferences also um, has like certain like people who track certain conferences that would be good to appear from perspective of region, from perspective of the business, from perspective of what kind of audience we're trying to attract with our talk. So like we in my company in Confluent, we actually maintain our own internal database of proposals. And thanks to one of my colleagues, Robin Moffat, kudos to him. He built sort of automation around the things. For example, there's a Slack bot that reminds that, oh, CFP for say Vox Days Milan is closing in 2 weeks. So in this case, people who internally we building a community of speakers for people who in particular region they might submit their talk there. So share with us the tools that you use to do this. Meetup.com, usually good place. We're not going to be talking about meetups per se, because meetups have more relaxed the process of submitting things. You just need to contact the organizer. But sometimes some of the meetups, they announce that they help to organize, or they might be getting some promotion from certain conferences. So meetups also might have links to the conference. Plus you as a if you want to be in this kind of world of professional speaking, you need to maintain a list of the conferences that are very influential for certain industries. For example, like if you're talking about Kubernetes, obviously you need to be a KubeCon. If you want to be in the Java world, there was a very good conference. There used to be very good conference that was known as Java One. Another conference that we're not going to be drinking for for this conference. Um, and if you own a particular industry, there I'm pretty sure there's some um, few tiers of the conference. There's some conference that has everyone, like for I don't know, like I used to be in the JavaScript world. I don't know what kind of JavaScript is leading JavaScript conference these days. I would say there are some conferences that in general have a good coverage and general good quality. For example, conferences organized by O'Reilly. It's a small publishing company. They do have a conference about big data, conference about DevOps, conference about performance, and about open source. So if you in say you're doing open source things, you want to try to get your spot and speak at OSCON, very high visibility conference, and it's generally good to have it in your portfolio as a professional speaker. So um, once again, if you have a certain particular tools, share with us. Again, reach out in Twitter. It's the J Baruch and the JM USSA in Twitter. So do not forget to tag us there. All right.
Okay, so on the good news, I'm going to blow your mind away and the mind of our three listeners.
Okay.
There is a silver bullet. There is a solution for our pain. It's
Is it
called
correct?
Tulula. It's called Tulula, TULU.LA.
Sounds
And
like some of the also Russian speaking people were.
absolutely. Absolutely. Sveta and Slava are behind this amazing effort. And I have to say that they not only replaced Lanyard, they by far surpassed what a Lanyard was giving us. It has the list of all the conferences. It has the list of open call for papers. You can subscribe for a call for papers by geography, by industry, by interest, and then get notifications when they're going to open and close. They also have amazing resources, for example, a curated list of events, and that's something that they pick and think that you might be interested. There are amazing stuff like the speakers lounge, when it's a curated list of blogs on the topic. So for example, what we discussed today on how to get accepted to the conferences, they have a list of a lot of blog posts talking about the same topic, probably better than we do. And I have to say, this is an extraordinary effort that I use every day, and my fear of missing out of conferences has disappeared completely thanks to their work. Thumbs up, I highly recommend it. Again, Tulula. TULU.LA. Go there, be there, and your problems of finding conferences is over.
All right. So they can be sponsors of this podcast. Anyway.
But I can. Well, this podcast can be sponsor of them because they are doing amazing job.
Yeah. Okay. We will find the ways how we can collaborate on this one. Now, all right. So we find this. We start. We went to the website and start submitting the talk. Baruch, how to create a proposal that won't suck? How you creating your proposal that your proposal was, get accepted? What are tips and tricks that we can bring to people? And also think about this. We're not just bragging about here. We're trying to help ourselves because, oh dear people, if again, I'm not calling out any names or whatnot, but there are some times when we're receiving certain proposals and oh my god. So this is why we're trying to educate and help people to write better proposals, so in future we will suffer less from reading those. So it's kind of like Ouroboros, right? We're trying to the bite the tail of this beast of fighting against bad conference proposals. All right. So what's your tips? Like what? How you start? What's your process? What's your process? Instead
I
of
think
like, not
being
not talking about copy pasting from like existing stuff, but like from scratch.
yeah. Yeah. So being on the program committee really helps because it gives you the perception of what the members of the program committee really look for. And me as a person of the program committee, when I look at the proposal, you need to remember that most of the time, except of some exceptions like the VOOPs and the other conferences organized by a Jaguar group, this proposal is the only thing that you know about the talk. You won't speak with the speaker before they got on stage and try to clarify what this talk is going to be about. You don't know a lot of time if this speaker is capable of communicating their ideas clearly or not. All you have is this one paragraph, and you need to decide yes or no. And this is why this one paragraph is so important. This is why you need to be very, very conscious when writing it, because this is your entire introduction to your talk to the program committee. And it's hard because there is a trade-off here. There is a fine line. You don't want to be too verbose and too detailed in it, because first, people just won't read a lot of text, right? You try to need to be concise and short, and also you don't want to give away too much of your talk in the abstract, because if the abstract says it all about your talk, maybe we can skip your talk at all. So it has to be a little bit of a teaser. It has to have a room for the surprise during the talk, but it also has to be detailed enough. So it is a very fine line to walk here.
So if you ever went to bookstore and you're trying to pick up new book to read, there's always, like, in the back of the book or on the very beginning of the book, there's sure the paragraph that does exactly what we're trying to describe. The purpose of this paragraph is to make you buy this book and read this book. Same thing with your abstract. The purpose of this paragraph is, first of all, get you accepted, so the organizers will see that you will be deliver some value um, for conference goers, for attendees. And second of all, your because your proposal will be used as a teaser, as a description of your talk, that allows you to attract people to your talk. Sometimes conference organizers, they also asking for like kind of sort of references, and these days references are all over internet. So usually if you have a previous speaking engagement, you might have a recording somewhere, or you can record yourself like we're doing right now. So here's our credentials. This is my pause, this is my tail, and this is all my credentials. um I'm just kidding, of course. And also only
That was a very, very Russian
very,
reference.
very deep Russian reference. Again, hashtag Простоквашино. Anyway, and in this particular case, it's a good thing to have. However, I would like to say that will not replace your abstract, because even though organizers asking you to provide these things, it's very rarely when they have a time to watch all the videos that people submitted. Because again, this year, for very small niche conference in London, we received over 300 proposals. Like, it is substantial. It's not something that's probably KubeCon organizers or KubeCon track hosts would see, because it's a very popular conference and a lot of people want to talk about their thing around Kubernetes. However, think about this, right? So there is limited time in life of people, so that's why you need to work on, catch their attention somehow.
Yeah, and I also wanted to talk about this video reference, which is extremely important, but I want to defer it after we speak about all the written pieces.
Okay.
So we spoke about the abstract, and this abstract is tricky because it's both for the program committee, but also for the audience. So you have this balance of what I want to share or what I want to keep in a surprise. Now, there is a solution for this problem, and that's a second piece that we usually have in the when you submit, and that will be your notes to the committee. It will usually be another text area that you can express your thoughts in, and this is not going to be public. And this is very. I see a lot of people just copy pasting the abstract into into those notes, and this is a mistake because those notes are another opportunity to convince the program committee that your talk is going to be good, and copy pasting the abstract is actually throwing this opportunity away, which is rather stupid. Instead, put a detailed plan there. Talk about what you're going to do. Here, you can give away all the secrets. It's not public. It's only for the program committee, and you want to give the program committee as much detail as possible. So here is where you go and into details and describe what you're going to talk about, how your demo is going to look, what are the takeaways, what are the plot twists, and be very, very detailed. Even, I mean, the best is just having a plan of what are you going to talk about with bullets. It will also help you to build the talk afterwards because you start with the plan. And if you already built a talk, you have this plan laid out. So just go ahead and put it in the notes for the committee. This is extremely important because remember, the abstract and those notes is everything the committee knows about you. So not about you, about your talk. So go ahead and use this space as well. The third part is your bio, a description of the speaker. And
No one,
again, this is hmm?
no one cares about this. No, I'm just
So
kidding. It's a
so
let's
again,
reference our credentials back
yeah,
in my previous.
yeah, so this is all the program committee knows about you. They might want to look you up in LinkedIn or whatever, but chances are they won't. Chances are they will read your bio and they will try to understand who are you qualified to give this talk, will the community care about you. And this is obviously another place to make an impression, although this is also a tricky one because you might um, um, put some things there which are not exactly true but make you look more appealing, and it might work sometime. But if you get caught and if there are some discrepancies between what you put in a bio and what can be found in other places, this is how you burn your credibility, and chances are you will just be blacklisted and will never be selected to this conference or any other conference with the same members of the program committee. So you need to be honest. Should you describe yourself in the best possible way? Of course, because this is what both the committee will look when they decide whether you are a good speaker, but also will be published on the website and in the agenda. And this is what the attendees will look at to decide if they want to go to your talk or any other talk. So it definitely should look good in your bio. One sentence of developer in Acme.inc is not a very appealing bio, but also be careful in being honest and credible in what you write.
So think about the bio is first of all internet remembers, like just speaking about credibility and the things that when someone needs to dig dig up things. But another thing also, do not make it like too big, like stay, it's a fine line, and this is something that you will develop over time. So it's not necessarily like, even though you can be like software engineer, developer for many years, like with resume, there should be kind of sort of on the very beginning of your resume, that's like a few sentences that summarizes your experience. Same thing with your speaking experience. You don't need to go ahead and just like enumerate all the conferences that you spoke, or all meetups or whatnot, right? So try to find things that would be, appealing, that makes you credible. But this is actually a very good segue. Think about it's a good segue to the content of call for paper again. um, it's not about you. So I will make a kind of mind blowing reveal here. It's not about you. It's not about your how awesome you on the stage in the red pants or top hat. It's about speaker. So you want to speak not because you're cool and you want to be in front of audience. You want to genuinely try to teach something new people. Otherwise it won't work. You will find the this how I can explain this, like this like a false appealing, this kind of like imposter thing. It will be very people feel it, like when the people are just blah blah people, or they're trying to teach you something interesting. So this is why, again, if you want to build a career in this type of space, think about attendees, what they get. So this is why things that Baruch mentioned in the past, having good understanding what this talk will be about, what would be takeaways, what the people will learn, what kind of things they will get after. So say, oh, in this talk you will see live coding of production ready application, and we will commit to prod on stage on Friday. Yes, this is fantastic. That will shows incredible skills, how you can do multiple things simultaneously. However, think about this: what kind of giveaways, what kind of takeaways people will get. um, in this case, like it's going to be slides available, or maybe some GitHub project available, or maybe some detailed playbook, which is also would be much better, of things what you will be doing there. So think about this: what people will get, what kind of things, and also what also helps. Think about this, like if you do step back and kind of withdraw yourself from the situation, think about what would be if I would be conference attendee, what I would learn from this, what kind of interesting things that I would like to learn myself. So in this case, it will put you in the position that other people might be also interested in this particular thing.
Yeah, Victor, thank you for bringing us back to the reasons of why at all people submitted conferences, and I think that the distinction that you made is very important, because this is what matters. And one of the I read a lot of books on conference speaking and what's not, and one of the most interesting ones, in terms of understanding why you want to give a talk and why you should give a talk, is called Deliver the Tech Talk. It's by Jeremy Donovan, or one of the organizers of the TED conferences, the, that you obviously know about. And although TED Talks are different from talks at technical conferences, technology conferences, there is one thing. There are a lot of similarities, and one of the main messages of Jeremy in the chapter, when he speaks about how to come with an idea and why at all you want to talk there, is that it's not about you as a speaker. It's not about showing off your skills. It's about giving idea a chance to go across to the audience and flourish there and strive and thrive. So it's about the idea that you have and you want to share, and you need to crystallize this idea. You need to understand what it is, and you need to kind of predict, will this idea take roots in the audience, and will the audience will be interested in. And Victor, building on the example that you gave, a live demo on how to deploy directly to production on Friday is a great demonstration of your skills as a speaker, and probably not the best idea to carry over to the audience. So it hits the wrong checkmark here. It's about you, not about the idea. This is not a good idea for a conference talk. Yeah, this book is highly recommended. All of its chapters are great. There are some great advice on how to deal with anxiety before public speaking and all that. Obviously, for the sake of this episode, the chapters about how to come with the idea and how to pitch it to the program committee are the best match. Highly recommended.
Yeah, when you said this word like pitch, it actually brings me this idea. This is how your abstract, think about your abstract. It's your if you're more like a business oriented person, it's like your sales pitch. Some of the things that, think about this: you met this program committee somewhere in the hallway or in elevator, and you have like literally few sentences to tell them. This is how you're going to sell your talk. So bring back to the topic of this podcast about abstracts. A colleague of us and a colleague of mine and a friend of us, Tim Berlin, he actually recorded a very short video where he summarizes some of his thoughts about this. Is why he said, "Hey, I'm not here, but here's the video," where he approaches the abstract writing from perspective of like storytelling, and it's actually short stories. It's like, I remember this joke, Baruch, or maybe it's not a joke, that Ernest Hemingway has this ability to write very short and very touchy story, and there's even like some contents who writes a short story that will touch you deeply, just contains 2-3 words basically. So think about the abstract. So it's a short story that tells some of the background, tells what you're going to be talking about this particular in this particular field, and after that, the key takeaways. Right? It's a uh, very well structured things, right? So you have introduction, you have this climax where you basically, this is going to be meat of your presentation, and after that there is some of the like aftermath, so of the of this story. So think about this, how writing this a proposal that is um, like you're writing a story,
Yeah,
something.
yeah, and pitch. Yeah, so that's very a very good analogy. And another, maybe the last part that I want to discuss is the part of providing a video of your that will highlight your presentation skills. Some conferences, some forums, some CMC forums make this field mandatory, and I, for one, highly recommend conference organizers doing that. In others, there is like optional field that you can put a link to, a URL to YouTube or something, and there are third that don't even have this field at all. But I think that providing this video is no less important than the other three pieces of the CFP application that we mentioned: the abstract, the notes for the committee, and your bio. Because as we mentioned, the committee won't have any communication with the speaker probably at all, except of this CFP submission. So this video is your only chance to prove the committee that you are able to communicate your thoughts in the coherent, understandable manner. So this is critical. This is not less important than the abstract itself. If this field exists and it's mandatory, that's great. You just fill it in. If this field does not exist, put the video to your to you speaking in the notes to the
Yeah,
committee.
that's actually a very good idea. And I remember the times when this type of thing was like pissing me off. But think about this: like, if you feel uncomfortable in your home office or work office, whatever, just talking to your phone, how comfortable you will be on the stage with hundreds of people in front of you. So it's just no brainer. It's just for speaker, it's just a very natural thing to speak to people, right? So this is why, do not miss this opportunity if there is a chance to provide video to talk about this. Why? usually it's like it's this thing is bringing your chances to get accepted, because you can use your facial expression, you use all this body language, you can show how you can well articulate your ideas. And again, it's going to be short. You can have as many takes as you want, right? It's not like you go in there and doing this like sales pitch in front of people in elevator where it's all or nothing, where you have this opportunity to sit in front of the camera in very comfortable environment and talk about things, and after that choose one of the best takes from the. So this is my advice as well. I concur the things that Baruch mentioned here.
So yeah, so just to summarize, if you have a recording of your talk which is good and you feel good about it, go ahead and use that. If you don't, either you never spoke that your first time, or you did something and it wasn't recorded, or you are not very pleased with the outcome of how the previous recording went, just record 2 minutes video about your talk that you are going to deliver. It hits all the right check marks. It gives the community the opportunity to see that you are able to speak and articulate your ideas. It gives you another opportunity to pitch your talk, and this is something that others don't have, because you just have this another 2 minutes of FaceTime with the committee, and this is great. And as Victor mentioned, you can make it to perfection, taking as many takes as you want. So don't pass on this opportunity. Even if you don't have anything pre-recorded, don't wave it up with, well, I don't have any video of myself talking. Don't do that. Instead, record a video, pitch your talk to the program committee, and this is a one big advantage and one big plus in our books.
All right, I think this is we went at some like very low hanging things. Let us know in comments. You can find all episodes of DevRelRadio on DevRelRad.io, and you can find all episodes of Crazy Russians in DevOps on pod.link/CRID. You can reach out to us in Twitter. It's J Baruch here, and my Twitter is J Gamusa basically. So you'll find it.
Jiga Musa.
You want-
Okay.
J Gamusa. So yeah. So stay in touch. Again, this is highly regular show. Uh, what we usually do.
Two highly regular shows.
Yeah, two highly regular shows. But hey, we tried, and we're doing our best. So for that's it, Baruch. Do you have any like closing remarks for our speakers?
Yeah. So absolutely, go ahead, and with those tips, try to come up with a good proposal and submit it to a lot of conferences. The normal ratio that you will get accepted is what, like 1 to 10, I would say. Does it sound right?
I think also we can plug some of the conference. Can you still submit to Swamp Up
No,
conference?
Swamp Up CFP is closed. The Whoops is still open, so that's a very nice opportunity. And actually, the benefit of DevOps comparing to other conferences that I already mentioned is that the program committee works with you, train you, teach you, help you present the best version of your talks possible. So even if you are not sure if your talk is good enough, the DevOps is one of those conferences that will lift you up and make your talk better. So still, the CFP is still open, very recommended.
And Kafka Summit Austin call for papers is open. I'm part of program committee. You can reach out on any questions about what you should submit. Oh, another things that we didn't discuss this, I forgot, is how conference organizers can help. So for example, um, probably might be talk about it on a different episode, but hey, we were doing some of the we definitely will be doing some office hours, meaning that we'll have a some of the time online when the people can submit their abstracts, and we can help them to like Baruch may say it, like clarify and crystallize these ideas from their talks and make their abstracts better. But again, we can, if we will get enough responses for this episode, we will follow up on this and maybe bring some other experts in the field. But like who we trying to fool here, right? So we expert for ourselves. So
No, 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 no. We will bring great guests. So
yeah,
yeah, going back to my closing pitch that you took completely
yep. This is
off
what I do.
topic.
This is
Yes.
what we do to each other.
Yeah. So the pause that I introduced, it was for you to confirm that 1 in 10 is the right ratio. Instead, you jump on it and hijacked it completely. So is it a good assumption? 1 in 10?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good
Yeah.
as well. Yep.
So yeah, so that means that if you want to try and speak in a couple of conferences, you need to submit to 50 of them or whatever. So use the resources that we mentioned. Use Tulula, use your colleagues and their knowledge about conferences that are going on, and submit. Do it wisely. Use some of our tips. Read all the blog posts and the books that we will post in the show notes, and good luck, and we hope to see you submitting to some of the conferences that we are involved, and also hope to see you speaking in other conferences that we attend, which is there is a good chance that we will see you.
All right, and stay tuned for next episodes. And as always, have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye bye.